and welcome to OhmAzing Living. Today we're going to be learning downward facing dog pose. Downward facing dog pose is a basic yoga pose that is used throughout most yoga practices. And it's great for helping to strengthen the arms, the shoulders, the back muscles. It's also good for elongating the spine and stretching the hamstrings, the calves, and the arches of your feet. As we get started, I strive to make my practices accessible to everyone, but only you know your body. So if I'm asking you to do something that maybe doesn't feel right in your body, back off of it and try to find another way to get into the pose that will help you be aligned correctly, yet will feel comfortable and safe for you. As well, I try to make my instructions clear and concise so that if you're visually impaired or blind, that you're able to follow along. If there's something that I don't explain very well, please drop me a comment below and let me know so that I can improve for the next video. Let's get started. I'm going to start with our hands in this particular pose. And for our hands, when we're down in a tabletop position, which is generally where we start for downward facing dog, I want you to have your wrists directly below your shoulders, and your fingers should be spread as wide as you can get them to go, with the exception of your thumb. I want you to bring your thumb in towards your index finger about a third of the way. There are many reasons for doing that, but one of the biggest reasons is that when you have your hand down on the floor, if you have your thumb spread too wide, it's going to cause your knuckle of your index finger to pop up. And so when the knuckle of our index finger pops up, we tend to lean on the outer part of our hand, putting undue strain on the wrist. So if you bring that thumb in a little bit, it allows you to get your knuckles flat to the floor, providing more stability, and it protects that outer wrist. Also, when we're down in our tabletop position, let's take our index finger, and it should be about at 12 o'clock. If you're a little broader shouldered, you may want to turn your hands a little bit more towards 1 o'clock. That helps to provide some stability in your shoulders. But be conscious when you're moving your hands that you're not rotating your shoulders way out or rotating your hands too far in, that you're internally rotating your shoulders. You want them to be nice and straight. So go ahead and get yourself lined up so that your wrists are directly below your shoulders. Get your fingers spread out, pull that thumb in a little bit, adjust your index finger so that you feel comfortable. Knees are directly below your hips. And when you're ready, tuck your toes, push through your feet, and push your hips up towards the ceiling. Now, when we've gotten into this pose, I want you to take a look at your knees. Make sure that your knees are pointed forward. If they're not, rotate your thighs either in or out to get them aligned. Maybe you have to adjust your feet a little bit, which is fine, but we want to make sure that our toes are pointed forward. Your feet can be hip width apart. It's okay if you want to take them a little farther, but no farther than that width apart. So pushing through our hands, nice, fingers spread out nice and wide, bringing that thumb in, pushing through our hands. Our head should be right in between our arms. So you're probably going to be looking at your toes. I know there are a lot of teachers that cue for you to look at your belly, but if you look at your belly, you have to bend your neck in order to be able to see your belly, and that does not keep a straight line. So the whole aim of this pose is to keep a nice straight line from your feet all the way up to your hips, and then from your hips all the way down to your hands. It's not necessary for your heels to be on the ground. It's great if they reach, but if they don't, that's okay. So let's push through our hands, push our hips up and back, kind of like you're trying to get your hips up into the crease of the ceiling. And maybe you can drop your heels down a little bit, maybe you can't. It's okay to relax a little bit so that your knees aren't locked. Activate your quadriceps, that'll help lift your knees. Push through your hands. If you'd like to bend one knee and then the other to loosen up your hamstrings a little bit, feel free to do that. And then go ahead and lift your toes way up off the ground, and then slowly bend your knees, drop your feet down, and then straighten your legs out, pushing through the palms of your hands, having a nice straight alignment all the way from your fingertips to your shoulders all the way down to your hips down to your feet, and push. On your next inhale, go ahead and release and look to the front of the mat and slowly walk your feet forward into a forward fold. And then bend your knees, push through your feet, and slowly come all the way up. So just to recap a little bit, for downward facing dog, generally, we go into downward facing dog from a tabletop position. A lot of sequences will be organized so that you're in tabletop in order to be able to push up into a downward facing dog. And we want to make sure that we have our fingers spread nice and wide. Thumb comes in a little bit, about 1/3 of the way, closer to the index finger. Wrists are right below our shoulders. Index fingers, 12 o'clock, or maybe a little bit towards 1 o'clock, if you're a little broader shoulder, to provide that stability. Knees directly below our hips. And then when we push back up into downward facing dog, we want our knees to be pointed forward, toes to be pointed forward. So if you need to rotate your thighs in one direction or the other to get those knees where they belong, activating our quadriceps to lift our kneecaps, and then push through our hands to lift our hips up towards the ceiling, elongating our spine. Nice elongation of the spine, stretching of the hamstrings, working the arches of our feet and the calves of our legs. I hope this video has been helpful to you. If so, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.